Gary Vaynerchuk, CEO, VaynerMedia and VaynerX. You know, I think the biggest elephant in the room with the AI advancement in marketing is when will AI creative hit the streets at scale? I think the biggest reason, the technology is pretty much there. The reason we aren't seeing it is there's still copyright and trademark law of where did the creative come from that I think the biggest brands in the world are still rightfully giving thought to from a legal standpoint. But if you're not a company that's taking this serious, you're going to be very vulnerable, both from process, let's talk classic marketing. Strategists can be using these AI infrastructures to help them think through things or find research. Creatives, obviously, for internal use, should be using this constantly to come across and get their ideas across quickly in visual form. It takes hours, if not days sometimes, to make a proper deck to communicate. Now you can do that in minutes. So I think behind the scenes quite a bit. And then finally, kind of what I think most people are asking themselves, when will we see long form video that was all AI generated as a commercial for Coca-Cola or Adidas? I think that's a 3 to 5 year window at scale, because I do think the thing that's holding it up at this point is legal and financial vulnerability for the agencies. Very hard to charge the same amount of money for creative fees if everyone knows that the process is very different. Once brands understand marketing is about and not or, that all of those things to look at should actually be put out to the consumer so that we can win on relevance with more consumer segmentations to actually grow our businesses. I think the elephant in the room in the industry is they think that one video can grow their business. I think this conversation is similar to what I'm sure people talked about in the mid to late 90s of saying, when will the internet integrate into, it's oxygen. AI is oxygen. It is a part of life. A lot of people, to your point with WPP and others, a lot of people are making huge investments into AI infrastructure, when in reality, the distribution partners are gonna have it on their end. So let me give you the for instance. People are gonna start building out AI infrastructure to make creative. Meanwhile, Meta and TikTok and Google and LinkedIn are gonna build it right into the product, and you're gonna do it in the distribution, and the creative is gonna be better because it's gonna understand the distribution. So there's a lot of chess being played. Unfortunately, a lot of people are playing checkers. I think to the point, like talking about AI as a thing versus an overarching reality is where people are gonna get caught. To me, that's also what's hurt people with social media. They don't realize how omni it is. They think of it in a silo. I think that will strategically hurt some people with AI, and the people that understand it, I think, will be successful. I think it's in strategy. I think the place that no one's talking about in advertising, where AI most benefits, is as a thinking partner to a strategist. Sometimes people don't understand, it's not you're looking for validation of truth of information as much as you're looking for inspiration to creativity and observation. What I mean by that is, when you're a strategist, you're really playing on consumer insights and consumer truths that may not be obvious to everyone. You're playing more of a psychographic and emotional intelligence game than you are playing information. The information is the commodity. If you're a battery company competing with another battery company, black and white information of what's the addressable market, what is it, the use case, those are commodities, they all know that. Understanding why single moms in Guadalajara might need it, or what they're interested in, or why 18 to 25-year-old gamers that live in Baja California, Mexico might be interested in your battery over, that becomes psychographic. That becomes a very different thing you're looking for. And AI bots and AI infrastructure have the ability to create insights to anthropology, not information, in a way that I think is much more powerful than a search engine. And that's why I think AI is going to be a much bigger partner to strategy than I think the industry is currently seeing. When I tell you what must be going on at Google for the last 3-4 years in prep for this, because they're ahead of it. We're seeing it, but people know what was going on with OpenAI and things of that nature in Silicon Valley. Madison Avenue is always quite far behind Silicon Valley in these things. Yeah, look, Google's an incredibly big company and they've got a lot of things going on, but let there be no confusion. That search engine is the foundation of their business, and I agree with you. I believe that Gen Alpha, the kids that are 8, 9, 10, 11 years old that are growing up right now, will look at the way we use search engines the way we look at people using the yellow pages.
I agree.
Taking it even out of AI for a second, as we sit here in the spring of 2024, the change that is in front of us in marketing is so significant on both the media buying and creative side that I think that you really have to go back to very early internet, and I mean consumer internet, so 95, 6, 7, 8, 9, 2000. But even bigger than that, I believe the changes that were on, I think you have to go back to when society went from primary radio to primary television. I don't think people understand how big the changes are with consumer attention and consumption. And so I expect substantial changes in our industry over the next decade. I believe that the biggest change in the last 100 years was when the television was invented. It completely changed where we gave I'm a trader of attention, right? And so the roaring 20s, there was a lot of invention, but the radio and the newspaper in the 20s and 30s, much like the 10s and the late 1800s, were still the primary devices that made everyone believe things and buy things. And then the television came along in the 50s and 60s and completely changed the world. America, ironically, really weaponized through Hollywood, the television. Most of the world became Americanized because of that. And I believe that social media and the internet and AI will be a combination of things that changes the new next world order of marketing and communication. There's no such thing as communication without ethical implications. I think people talk shit and don't live that reality. I think people like to say that over dinner because it's a beautiful ideology of being anti-cultural and it feels cool, but no one's acting on that. The pendulums always swing, and we're on the tail end or the middle or the back end of a heavy digital. I believe the biggest advocates of digital are trying to find their balance of having less time and things of that nature. But it is still the primary device of you can't be a functional human being on earth without functioning through this. You are literally not a functional part of society without it. You can live that life, but that means you've stepped away from the vortex. You live in the woods, which is okay, and millions will do that, but not billions. The industry hasn't even adapted to social media yet. I believe the industry, if we're talking about marketing, is incredibly romantic about yesterday. Let's still make television commercials, and is infatuated with tomorrow. I have more CMOs and marketers talking to me about AI, and 2 years ago, we had CMOs around the world, LATAM, US, Europe, Asia, who were willing to spend more money on the metaverse than on social media creative. This industry, from my perspective, 15 years in it, 15 years prior watching it, is incredibly delusionally romantic about yesterday, naive and ideological about tomorrow, and atrocious at today. And I believe marketing is about today. This is the biggest issue in the industry. This is the reason VaynerMedia went from 0 to one of the largest independent agencies in the world. And it wasn't done because I'm charismatic or this, it's because the work. And the only thing I think about is, where is the attention right now? And how do I do creative that's actually consumed that even gives me a chance to buy these sneakers, these pants, that watch, this hat? This is my great plea to the industry, which is like, look, I come from technology. I'm infatuated by being curious and moving fast on new. And I believe in the old principles. I believe that creative is the variable of success. I believe in reach and frequency, but I believe in actualized reach and frequency, not potential reach and frequency. I guess that's one long-winded way to say I'm very fascinated by the industry's inability to be good at marketing in the day that we actually live in. And that day right now, my friend, is the TikTokification of every social network. These 7 to 10 platforms disproportionately have the attention of every end consumer, and the creative that is required to be good at it looks nothing like what the industry has done. And that is the elephant in the room. And that is fascinating for me to watch. I think that we're probably underestimating it, but I believe the people that are over or underestimating it, with all due respect, and I have I am a proud marketer. I love this industry. But with all due respect, I say this, I'm really hedging it because it's a very difficult thing to say out loud. There is almost nobody in the world of advertising around the world that is even within a mile of knowledge of AI to the most average AI Silicon Valley executive. This industry is not very strong in even understanding it, which is why we're over and underestimating it, because this is not an industry that is grounded in technology. It's our biggest issue. We don't think about AI from the standpoint of what it really means technology-wise when we're in Madison Avenue or in corporate America marketing. We think of it as, how's it gonna affect our P&L in the short term? That's it. This industry is incredibly fascinating to me. It is servicing the biggest brands in the world, but constantly worrying about their own P&Ls, which is at the crux of why we're not good at today. It's a B2B business that is now consolidated so much that every B2B agency is actually a publicly traded company and needs to worry about their revenue and profit every 90 days, which is inherently challenging to service when you worry about that first. What is happening with independent agencies is they're spending all their time jockeying to maximize their EBITDA for the sale to the holding company. It's been very fascinating to be in this industry. I feel the least creative thing I know on earth today is the creative industry of advertising for Fortune 500 companies. And I say that with not a razz. I say that as a true observation, and that's why I love where you went with the conversation. You're speaking about a bigger macro trend that really matters, but the interpretation of how this industry handles things is incredibly CFO-centric. It's not CTO-centric, and you know what's sad? It's not even CCO-centric. It is not a creative industry anymore. We do not make creative for end consumers. We make creative for boardrooms and P&Ls.